Sue, I don't see your video. You might want to try to join the meeting again, maybe.
Will do.
All right, so Sue's going to rejoin the meeting and hopefully we'll have the video then set up. Looking for some familiar, I see Sandra Clark's joining us now. Jack Graham, Karen. Oh, there we go. Let's hope for the best. The session's being recorded, by the way, because Sue Ellson had requested it. All right, Sue, hopefully.
Good evening, good morning.
Good evening, good morning, Sue. Any luck getting a video going?
I see you on video.
You can see me on video, even though my display is still my face.
Yeah, I can see your video now too, actually.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, I'll
Yeah, there.
assume
Well,
on
I
camera.
see. I see the drawn video. I don't actually see your face. There you. Well, almost. Well, I made you the co-presenter. Are you going to be able to share your screen with
Let's see. I'll try that.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well,
We're coming in. Well, welcome everyone. Apologies for the technical glitches. This tends to happen in Zoom sometimes. I found various issues over the years, and they've brought in a new thing where you can't actually organise a meeting without there either being a waiting room or a meeting passcode, which is interesting. So,
Sue, is it possible for you to your volume? Can you make it a little bit louder first of all?
yeah, is that better?
Yeah, yeah. Just Sue's just a little bit of an introduction. Sue, she's been on LinkedIn since December of 2003, and she's an author, educator, and practitioner. We've had a couple of conversations. I really appreciate you getting up for us now. It's about 7 o'clock here in New York. What time is it where you are in Australia?
Oh, all very good. 11 a.m. So perfectly fine.
Oh, okay. Cool. So whatever you want to get going, I'll monitor the chat and see if anyone else is going to be joining us.
Cool. Well, thank you, Ken, for the opportunity to be here. I've joined in one of your meetup LinkedIn locals previously, and you had some great speakers. And I think the work you do as an introvert, or whatever you like to call yourself, LinkedIn rock star, is fantastic.
Sure.
And I love the fact that with technology that someone in Australia can be dealing with the whole world. So that's kind of exciting. And I chose this topic because this is something I guess I wanted to explore for myself as well. And that's the thing, when you're an educator, you have to kind of know more than your students. So the opportunity to actually dig deeper and find out some of these things is really important, even as an educator, but also as a practitioner. And I've written 5 books. 2 of them are about LinkedIn, and I'll give you some access to those. As an educator, I'd like to encourage you to write notes. The slides are going to be available on my website. I'll also email them to Ken so he can email anybody who would like a copy of the slides, because I'm all for sharing information. Now, sorry you can't see me, Alyssa. I don't know why it's not working either. My video camera just will not turn on. So yeah, and I've come out and come back in. So hopefully, at least with the slides, you'll be able to get a sense of the information. Now, what I wanted to do today is also give some of you a background on content. And I know that we all have different levels of capability. And I know that some of you are obviously more advanced than others. But I want to make sure that we all understand the actual basics of content on LinkedIn. And I will also monitor the chat as well. So if you've got questions as we go through, I'm quite happy to answer those. I'm going to give you my general observations of content performance, and about halfway through, I will ask you to think if there's anything you'd like to share with the group so that it can be a little bit more interactive. I'll also introduce creator mode and some creator mode suggestions. I like to make sure everybody gets value. So if you would like to download any one of my first 4 books for free, you can do so at researchgate.net. If you'd like to reward the author for writing them, you can go to 120ways.com. They're only $10 Australian each. I also invite everybody at my events to follow or subscribe to me on social media. Back in the day when something like Facebook first came out, it seemed that every television commercial invited you to like the Facebook page, but now we don't get those reminders to follow people on social media. So every time I do a presentation, I update my numbers here to see how they're increasing. So if you go back and view any of my previous recordings, you'll see how my numbers have increased, and I invite you to follow me on whichever social media platform is of most interest to you. By way of background, I started my working career 6 days after my last Year 12 exam, which is secondary school in Australia, at Westpac, the first bank in Australia, and I worked there for 11 years. I moved from Adelaide in South Australia to Melbourne in Victoria in 1994, got a job, found out I was pregnant, lost that job, and basically haven't had a real job since 1994. So I do a whole bunch of different things. I'm a member of those professional associations there. I set up my first website, newcomersnetwork.com, in 2001, Camberwell Network in 2012. These are social enterprises. First one for people who've moved, second one for people who are in the Camberwell, which is a suburb of Melbourne, and then obviously 120 Ways Publishing for my books. So yeah, I run several websites as well. So I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we are all individually based, and obviously I welcome everyone from any background, any ability, any faith, whatever. This is all information sharing. It's not professional advice for your personal circumstances. It's always good to put in a disclaimer there because obviously if I'm working with an individual client, I may make different suggestions. The slides and the video recording will be emailed. You can leave your video camera off or on, but if you do have those off, then there's less bandwidth and sometimes the presentation can be more reliable. I'll assume that varied level of knowledge. Please put your questions in the chat. You can learn more about me and my clients on my website. I will be asking you at the end what's been most helpful to you. So you might like to think of something that could be most helpful to you, and also ways to say thank you, and not just to me, but to Ken. How many times does everybody say, thanks, Ken, for organising this opportunity? So I really encourage you to think about how you might be able to thank him as well for making this opportunity available. I also say that if anybody books some time with me before the 14th of February, which is Valentine's Day, then you'll get $50 off whichever service you book. So content on LinkedIn. So here's all the terminology. So first of all, a post, and that's an item that's going to appear in the LinkedIn newsfeed. So as soon as you log on to LinkedIn on your phone or on your laptop or desktop, your posts and everything in the newsfeed appears. And if you put something in that area, that's called a post. You may have noticed that on that same screen, you can also see an article, a permanent piece of content that can be found in Google search results. And I've got an interesting little anecdote there. I wrote an article on LinkedIn for journalists, and it actually outranked LinkedIn's own content. So they de-indexed it from Google, and it meant that I republished on my website. Now, if you Google LinkedIn for journalists, my Sue Ellson website comes up with that same article. So LinkedIn is watching what you do publish, and if it beats them, it could be even de-indexed, but I've got lots of other articles. I've written 98 articles now since 2014, and a number of those appear in Google search results. So I really love that permanent digital asset value. Engagement. Now this, you might be surprised that this is probably the tip I'm going to emphasize the most for you following on from today. So I know that a lot of you are job seekers, and that if you engage with the newsfeed, that can bring you in front of people who are important. And I have another little anecdotal story. This is a client who's had a very mixed career in the music industry and lots of odd jobs. And she's got to a certain age and realised she can't afford a house because she doesn't have a regular gig and so on. Anyway, she's recently got a job in a university, and it's at a really leading edge of technology. And I've encouraged her to engage, but also to share content. Now, she sent me a very lengthy email the other day because this is only a contract position. There's lots of politics and lots of things she can't do because of regulation, so on and so forth. But what she's actually been able to do is she's already got a job offers from other organisations. She's also been offered something better from the university where she's currently working. And she's also got amazing feedback on the content that she has actually shared and engaged with. So engaging, if you're not ready to curate content, which is where you get content from someone else and you share it, or create content of your own, engagement is a fantastic strategy to start off with. And I'm sure Max will agree with me there. If you'd like to read more about that, you can just follow that link from the slides. Now, your LinkedIn profile is you as a person on LinkedIn. Now, even if you have multiple careers, a photographer and a scientist, you don't have two LinkedIn profiles because you're only one person and you only need to have one LinkedIn profile. But you can have a LinkedIn page, and it will either be called a company page or a school page. You don't have to be a registered company, but it's a page on LinkedIn. And I like pages because I have one called Sue Ellson, believe it or not. And what I love about a page is all your content is aggregated in one spot. So there I can talk about everything I've done. And if somebody wants to see all my content in one spot, they can see it on my page. But also for schools, a lot of schools have started out, or universities, with a company page instead of a school page, and they need to change that so that they can track all of their alumni, and those students can list and highlight that school in their education section on their LinkedIn profile. Now, in the beginning, there were things called LinkedIn influencers. Now, these were personally selected by LinkedIn, and it includes people like Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn. He's an influencer, and he has a little blue LinkedIn icon next to his profile, not the gold one of a premium member. And these are the people who are considered to be, there was originally only 300, but now it's gone to more than 500 of the world's foremost thinkers, leaders, and innovators. So I encourage you to follow one or more of those LinkedIn influencers. And here in Australia, it was just announced that we've got top voices in the area of jobs and career search, but LinkedIn does nominate top voices for different countries and different disciplines. So you might see some of that information in your LinkedIn newsfeed. Now, LinkedIn Audio, welcome from Trinidad, Coach Nash. LinkedIn Audio is an audio feature. So early 2020, there's a platform called Clubhouse, which is all audio, no text whatsoever. And it's now being sort of migrated as a new bell and whistle available through LinkedIn. And I know that some of the people that Ken and I know are beta testers for LinkedIn Audio, and we presume it'll probably be rolled out sometime later this year for the rest of the LinkedIn members. So I think there's about 300 people in that beta group. There's also something called LinkedIn Video coming, and it will allow you to broadcast directly within LinkedIn. So it's not LinkedIn Live, it's LinkedIn Video, but that's still in development from what I understand. And one of my favorite things to do is run a LinkedIn event. Now you can create that as an individual or from your company page. And you can, if you put a link to your privacy policy on your website, or if you haven't got one, just link to your contact page, then you can collect the registration details of all the participants. Now, when people register for an event, they will either say yes or no as to whether or not they wish you to contact them again. And if they say no, please do not add them to your mailing list. But if they say yes, well, then I reckon you can definitely invite them to your mailing list. And you can also invite all the people who come to your event, if they're not first level connections, to connect with you. What's also really exciting about a LinkedIn event is you can invite 1,000 of your connections per week to that event. So it's a really great way to reconnect with the people in your network. Now, also on the LinkedIn app, if you're out and about in person, you can connect with somebody by pressing in the search box and seeing their QR code. But you can also record a 10-second name pronunciation next to your name if it's a little bit difficult to pronounce, or even if you just want to introduce yourself in your own voice. And you can also record a 30-second video introduction. next to your face. So if you're a job seeker, I definitely recommend that you say hello and try and smile as much as you can. Camera is very unforgiving to a straight face. So you need to sort of maximize that smiling. I once had a person in an audience when I was running live events that kept on smiling and making these amazing facial expressions. I thought, what's wrong with that lady? And I later realized she was an actress. And so when you're being on camera, you have to exaggerate your facial movements so much more so that it comes across, because a screen is only 2-dimensional, whereas in real life it's 3-dimensional. So please, if you're going to do videos, smile, even if it feels forced, just keep doing it a lot. Now, LinkedIn Creator. You can turn on LinkedIn Creator in the resources or dashboard section of your LinkedIn profile. It will change your connect button on LinkedIn to a follow button, and you can add 5 hashtags that you would like to discuss. And if you have more than 150 followers, which is basically 150 connections, then, and you do post regularly, then LinkedIn will invite you to join or access LinkedIn Live and LinkedIn newsletters. So definitely encourage you to consider, turning on creator mode. And there's lots more things that I'll talk about later. LinkedIn Live, that was originally only offered to people who applied, and you had to talk about anything except LinkedIn. You weren't allowed to talk about LinkedIn, and you could do video broadcasting. But the issue is you need to have a third-party platform to be able to broadcast. LinkedIn does recommend ones, and in particular Restream, but it involves creating an account and setting up all the tech, and it isn't easy. And I've decided not to use LinkedIn Live because I've watched a few LinkedIn Lives, and the most number of people I've seen on any LinkedIn Live was about 21. And I would like to give access to more than 21 people to LinkedIn Live. So StreamYard's good for LinkedIn Live. Thanks, Max. You might be able to share your thoughts on LinkedIn Live if you do it and how well it's worked for you. I'd love some extra feedback on that. But I've actually decided not to. And plus the fact you stop doing it. There you go, Max. That says a lot, doesn't it? Too much work. I just do not have the time. I'm a sort of one-woman show here. And great feedback. Thank you, Max. LinkedIn newsletter. So if you, as I said, have those more than 150 followers and you do post regularly on LinkedIn, then you will gain access to the LinkedIn newsletter feature. Now, to write a newsletter, you click on write an article and you choose which one you want to write the newsletter under. So whether it be under a company page or your personal page. And the first one you publish, it goes out to every single connection you have. So I've got 22,000 odd connections, and all of those people were invited to subscribe. And there was a big rush of invitations. You may have noticed that every man and his dog is inviting you to subscribe to their newsletter. Now you can see a list of all newsletters. So if you want to click that link, you can see all the ones that are out there already. And I'll tell you more about what I've decided to do on that. And then if you want to see the LinkedIn version of LinkedIn Creators and all the intro, you can click on that link there. So my general observations of content performance. So here I'm going to talk about what I've observed producing content since 2003. Max has just mentioned, I did a live stream sampling new Vegemite shakes, fun for my Facebook friends, irrelevant for the LinkedIn audience. Absolutely. And I'm really reluctant to put social content, or personal content, I should say, on social media. I know a lot of you have great sense of humor and are really good at, I'm just not one of those people. Like Ken, I'm an introvert and I like to share information. So a lot of people can't believe that I'm introverted considering how much presenting and writing that I do, but I like to educate, and that motivates me to be there. Now, if you share a post as a person on LinkedIn, it's likely to receive more views than if you share it from a company or school page. So that's not a reason not to do it, because people will check out your company page or school pages and you want to have some content there. But if you'd like some tips on how to make those posts go more viral, please click on that link. If you write an article as a person, it's more likely to appear in search results than if you write it as a company or school. Now, again, not a reason not to do it, because I like the idea of the content remaining with the business rather than with any individual who works there. So, but there's more tips on how to write search engine optimized articles available there. Now, posts or articles, as I said, less likely to go viral, but you can, if you've got a big enough audience, pay to promote them, but you have to have at least 300 people in that audience size. Again, I haven't heard of too many people who've had success with promoting their content. So again, it's not something I do. I just keep showing up. Consistency, and I'm sure many other people on this call would know that that's one of the main keys to doing well on social media. So if you are going to write a post, you would see when you go to the menu or the news feed, there's that little start a post box, and you can add a photo, a video, a job, or write an article. That's the first screen you have. Now, if you click in that start a post box, it will then bring up this screen, and then it gives you a little bit more information, and I can decide who I want to publish it as, who I want to see it. But if I click the three dots, I will then have all these other choices of things that I can add to my post. And I have found that adding a document or creating a poll are the things that currently attract the most number of views. Now, a little while ago, it was adding videos, but people have got sick of watching videos, particularly any, videos longer than 1 minute. So I'm finding that these are the ones that are working the most. A lot of people are actually sick of polls. I did my first and only one recently, got over 5,000 views in a week, which is kind of cool, seeing as I'd already posted other content after that. But ones that I really like are these documents. So that is when you have a PDF. Now, to get a PDF, all you need to do is have a PowerPoint presentation, and you can save it as PDF, and then you can upload it into LinkedIn. It can be in landscape format, it can be in portrait, it can be in square, it can be whatever you like there. And what I love is it's like clickable slides, like a carousel. And for someone like me who can read really fast and doesn't want to watch videos, I can get through content much more quickly. But also, somebody who looks at those slides is pausing on that post in the newsfeed. And if somebody pauses on a post, LinkedIn says there's a high dwell time on that post. So people are looking at it for a lengthy period of time, which means it must be good content. So if it must be good content, then LinkedIn will share it with more people. So yeah, I really love those. Okay. The next thing is, so here's these instructions. Now, this is the poll that I did. And as you can see there, 5,661 views. It was 2 weeks ago. And I'm in the midst of, outlining a course to go with my book. So I wanted to find out from people, what do they prefer? A book with written steps, event with latest tips, which is what we're doing now, in-person one-on-one, or this online course with video. And as you can see, out of the 75 votes, and apparently you only need about 21 votes to be statistically relevant. So I've got enough. And yeah, there you go. And Max, I quite agree with you. So many polls, people complain about them, but they still promote them. And I guess they promote them because of that dwell time. So anytime somebody stops scrolling, that's, going to tell the algorithm that it's kind of cool. Now, other little things you can do to stop people scrolling is put people's faces in pictures, use pictures that tell stories, and put before and after shots, because that really makes the eye work out what's before, what's after, what's different. There's a comparison here. And that sort of image can really generate that high dwell time. Now, if you are going to add videos, here in Australia, there's a new Australian of the Year, and he is an advocate for people of all abilities. So not just everybody who's got the standard range of abilities, but perhaps some people who don't have as wide a range of abilities. I don't like to say disabilities if you haven't gathered already. And what we need to do, I wrote a poem about it because I like writing poetry. And I ended up in a conversation with one of my connections who I'd never met. And she has She mentions that she has autistic capabilities, and she works for a local government council, and she helps the council create content and resources that are suitable for everybody in the community. And that content is called universal design. So what we've got to try and do from now on is make sure anybody of any ability can access what we share. So if we're going to share a video and we use this concept of a universal design, we don't just put the video straight from our phone onto LinkedIn. If we upload it to YouTube first, and I love that because it gets me Google search results, because YouTube is owned by Google and it's there permanently, and I can optimize it. But if I wait a little while after the video has been produced, it will produce some subtitles, and you'll see that you can duplicate and edit them. And then you can go in here and you can see I've started editing that slightly by putting capital letters and changing my name to the right spelling. And I can copy paste that and put it in a post if I want to. But I publish it and then I download an SRT file. So then when I upload my video to LinkedIn, what I will then do is upload the video file plus that SRT file, which is all the captions. Now, if we think about universal design being great for people who can't hear, we can also think about it being fantastic for people who want to watch a video but without the sound on. So this concept of designing things for people of all abilities actually makes it even better for somebody who can hear or who can read. So please consider doing this from now on, making sure all your videos have subtitles, not on the screen where you've added it part of some, super duper video editing package, but in the form of that SRT file, because somebody who has a disability will have a program that can read that SRT file, but cannot necessarily see the text layered on top of an image on a video. So keep that in mind. Also, if you make sure your title is good, there's a very good chance that it'll be found on YouTube. So now's the time for you to give me your observations. What have you noticed recently that is working well? Max has already mentioned something, but I'd love to hear from some others there. And do you use universal design in your approach? Are you making your content accessible for people of all abilities? So do you add alternative text for images? So if I was going to describe this picture, I'd say picture of a brown eye, an open brown eye, I would describe that picture. And do you use emojis? Do you use emotive language in your content? Do you suggest what people should do next? Do you use questions as a way of encouraging engagement? So I'll turn off my camera. Max says he uses subtitles. Does anybody use anything else that they'd like to share with the group? Just unmute yourself and I'll let you add something in. Would like to participate? Max has gone upside down. Nobody has anything else to add?
I put something in, I put down that I crowdsource my posts to get engagement. I always ask my network, what do you think about this? What do you think about what I'm posting? Just to get engagement that way.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the way you use a lot of at mentions in your post too, Ken. It really lets people know that you're talking about them and sharing their value as well. Coach Nash says, notice that job posts are now being posted on LinkedIn. Yes, and the best part is that you can actually find some of your content that's in the news feed is now appearing in Google search results as well. So that's really exciting. I've noticed that my LinkedIn Shares newsletter is appearing in Google search results when you Google my name. So that's kind of exciting as well. Yeah. Does anybody else have something they'd like to share that they've noticed on LinkedIn has worked really well for them recently?
Well, and I'm an introvert and I put something out there. Someone else has got to be able to say something.
Yes, absolutely. And remember that people love it when you like this stuff. It's really, really valuable to do that. So I really encourage you to consider that as well. Yeah. Cool.
Do you I've used emojis too. I see what Karen put in there.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on emojis?
Okay, well, if it was pizza emojis over and over again, multiple times, I'd say, oh, I'd probably give that one a miss. But if it's a tick emoji or a chart that is going up in performance or a question mark emoji, I have no issue with those. They add a little bit of colour and flavour to the text and they just make it a little bit more interesting. But would I put on things that make me look like a 20-year-old and cool? Probably not, because I like to make things look professional. My motto is always friendly and professional. That's always my motto. Yeah. And Christine's mentioned interesting. Did you have something you'd like to add? We've got a quiet audience today.
I mean, I would say the other thing I don't like is when people spam tag, which is tag 30 or 40 people in a post just to get engagement, which doesn't really help.
Yeah, no, that's really inappropriate. And I actually tagged someone who I thought would be interested in the topic, and she's a very high profile person, and she actually removed the tag from the post. So you could still see her name there, but because she had been tagged inappropriately, she could click on the 3 dots on the post and remove the tag. So she wasn't associated with the post I had written, and she'd messaged me and I said, oh, look, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I won't tag you again. But there's another person here in Melbourne who runs the Social Media Marketing Institute, and she gets tagged a lot of the time because people think she's got a really big network and she'll share it. And so she's actually complained that she's been spam tagged quite frequently. Yeah. Any others? Nice to see you, Alan. I hope people spam tagging me, yes. And Christine's learning from everyone. Fantastic. That's really good. I don't want to just be the Sue Ellson show here. The more we can get everybody else involved, the better that is. So thank you for your contributions, and you'll be invited to share more later. Okay. Next. So LinkedIn creator mode itself. So this is directly from the LinkedIn horse's mouth. Turning on creator mode lets people know that your profile is a destination for inspiring content and helps you gain followers. Plus, you can get streamlined access to creator tools like live video newsletters, so you have more ways to make content and actively engage with your following. Start making a name for yourself and driving conversations that matter. So the newsfeed on LinkedIn is actually an acquired feature. When LinkedIn first started, there was no newsfeed, and they purchased the platform called Pulse, and that was the newsfeed, and now it's just a newsfeed like every other social media platform has a newsfeed. And what you're going to notice when they talk about all the fabulous creator tools is you're probably using most of them already. So one of the things you can do is hashtags, but this time around, you can nominate 5 hashtags which are likely to be the things you are most likely to talk about. And I've had a number of people share with me that since they turned on creator mode and they included their main hashtags in their content, those posts have gone more viral. So it does make a difference. I recommend that your major content topics are what you use as your hashtags, and you also use some sort of branding hashtag. So mine is obviously my name because a lot of content is attached to my name. So I've chosen to put my name as one of the hashtags because I put my hashtag on most of my content anyway. And this screen is also where you can see whether or not you have been given access to those extra creator tools. So I have access to LinkedIn Live but not using it, and I have access to LinkedIn newsletters. So those hashtags will appear on your LinkedIn profile just underneath your headline. And to turn on creator mode, it will be in that resources section, or if you've got the old version layout, it will be in something called your dashboard. And you just need to turn that little toggle on so it goes green, and that turns it on. And then once you click on that, that's where you'll see whether you have access to LinkedIn Live and LinkedIn newsletters. So here are the fabulous creator tools that LinkedIn is giving you as a creator. But they're all things that I've already mentioned: short form posts, images and video, live video, documents, which is those PDFs, articles, newsletters, and events. So there's nothing really that new here, but it's just trying to encourage you to use these features. And you might say, well, I'm a job seeker. Why do I need all this? Well, you need to be across what's going to work. And as I said in the beginning, engagement is the number one thing. So if you're following the company profiles where you'd like to work or attract business from, if you're engaging with content from those people, all those engagement strategies are going to work as well, if not better, than some of these creative things. But as a creator, you're reminded to consider using those. So here are my suggestions. First of all, select and use. So don't create those 5 hashtags and then not use them, but use them as often as possible in your posts, whether you are sharing it from your personal profile or from your LinkedIn page. I would not rush to use LinkedIn, and I absolutely prefer to use LinkedIn events, record them, and then add them to YouTube and share them as a post. And then the link from my website, I also add to my newsletter. I would only suggest that you create a newsletter if you can consistently publish content on a regular basis. So anybody who teaches social media or talks about social media says it's all about consistency. It's not creating some post that goes viral and everybody sees it. That's a once off. You need to be showing up. And by showing up, I suggest you would need to put some form of content online once a week. Now, I know that is different to what you may have heard. I've heard 6 times a day and I've heard 28 videos a month. These are extremes. If I put that much content out there, people in my network would think I was a megalomaniac. So I'm definitely not going to be doing that. But once a week is all you need to do to maintain it. So if you're going to do this newsletter, there's a lot of people who've started newsletters and then never continued them. So that doesn't look good for you either. And Karen agrees with that frequency. Thank you, Karen. Yes, who wants to just be annoyed? And there's this other client that I have recently, and she's active on Facebook, and I kid you not, she puts out so many posts. I really am considering, even though I really like this woman, unfollowing her on Facebook. I'm just getting too many notifications and it's irritating. So now I just don't want to see her at all, which is not good for her business. Now, LinkedIn makes it very, very clear that you cannot automate anything. It's ironic because LinkedIn can go through your phone or your emails and get people to join LinkedIn, but you're not allowed to automate anything. That's okay. You can systemize things. So I'm going to share with you how I do this and what I do each month now. So what I do is I put a newsletter on my website with linking to everything I've done for the month, everything I've published, every event I ran, and I put all of that information on my website first, not into MailChimp, because then it's only on the MailChimp record, it's not on my website. So I put up my website first, I copy paste it and share it on LinkedIn, and I copy paste it into MailChimp and email it to my mailing list. So the content that I've created over the month then gets shared on my website, it gets shared in newsletter, email newsletter, and it gets shared in a LinkedIn newsletter. So all 3 at once. So you might be saying, where do I find my newsletter? So you can see you've got access to it, but where do you go to get it? Well, it's kind of tricky. You have to go to My Network and then click on newsletters. And you can see here I've subscribed to 75 newsletters. And when you click on that newsletters, you will see at the top of the list your newsletter, and you'll see that it says author next to your name. So that's how you know that's your newsletter. And I thought I could just click on 4,053 and see those subscribers, but I actually can't. I actually have to go into a newsletter I've produced and then click on subscribers to be able to see those people. So just keep that in mind. So here is my sort of process in more detail. So add the content to your website, or if you prefer, now I do add a lot of my content as a LinkedIn article rather than content to my website because, LinkedIn likes to promote LinkedIn content. So obviously, and it ranks in Google as well. So I quite often publish my content as a LinkedIn article. I always email myself a copy of my content. In the unlikely event that LinkedIn blows up, I don't want to lose all that stuff I've written. I accidentally answered 163 questions on Quora.com one year, and then they deleted them because apparently they contravened some policy. And so after that, I learned I'm never not having a copy of my content ever again. So yeah, wherever you choose to publish your content, could be on Medium or somewhere else, doesn't matter, but you publish it. And I also link to everything I've had published on my website. So I've actually got my own name website, which I believe is what everybody is going to have in the future, their own name website. And so mine is just my name, and then I've got a publications page, and it goes right back to 2001, a list of everything that I've been able to find where I've been included. So once I've written some content, I then share that content in the newsfeed, and I use my creator mode hashtags and any others that are relevant. Once a month, I prepare an email newsletter that I add to my website, and then I share that via my mail program. So there's the website, the newsletter on my website. It's a page. I use WordPress, it's a page on my website, and I use MailChimp because I have less than 2,000 subscribers on my mailing list, and I share that newsletter around the end of each month. And then I prepare the LinkedIn newsletter with the same content. So that's edition 3 there on my website. That's edition 3 there on LinkedIn. Now, sorry, I didn't mean to go down there. What you can also do is everybody who's subscribed to your newsletter, there'll obviously be lots of first level connections because they were invited to look at it, but you might attract some additional people to subscribe to your newsletter. So you can see here, I had 3,000 when I first started, I'm now over 4,000. So you could go through scrolling manually, it's a lengthy process, but you could consider inviting the people who've subscribed to your newsletter to connect with you on LinkedIn. Now, I know you can only have a maximum of 30,000 connections, but if they're looking at your newsletter, they're obviously interested in what you do. So I figure it's a good idea to reach out to those people and connect with them if they match your target audience. I mean, if it's a web developer in Botswana, that might not be relevant for my audience because most of the people I work with are based in Australia. But yeah, as I said, if you want to see those subscribers, you've actually got to look in your newsletter, an actual one you've published, and then click on that link to see those people. So definitely going to open up for questions very shortly and give you some options as to what you can do after today. So at 1 o'clock, which is just over 2 hours from now, I'm going to be running a little conversation. There's a guy who reached out to me on LinkedIn in Canada, and he wanted to ask me a whole bunch of questions as how did I write, all my books. So we're just going to have a chit chat at 1 o'clock. So if you'd like to join us, feel free to do so. I run a monthly LinkedIn event for free. My next one is for LinkedIn for HR professionals, and you can check that one out. If you register, I will definitely send you the recording. And then there's a whole bunch of other presentations that I have coming up. Lots of them are free, so you're welcome to check any of those out. As I said before, you can download my books, and you're more than welcome to share that link with anybody. And you can subscribe to me on social media if you like to keep up to date. You can subscribe to my newsletter on LinkedIn or via email, whichever you prefer. And you can get $50 off if you book an appointment with me before the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, and how you can say thank you. Now, just this week, or last week actually, I was again invited to do a presentation in a regional part of Victoria for free. Now, it was to help women, and I'd love to be able to do that, but I would lose half a day's income by doing that. And this person did not offer me anything whatsoever in return. And I thought, we really have to change that mentality of expecting people to do things for free. So Ken has done an amazing job to make this happen. So please consider writing, if you're connected to him on LinkedIn, you can write him a recommendation, you can endorse one of his skills. My formula for writing a recommendation is where you met. I first met Ken when I started going to his LinkedIn local events. Over time, I've been to lots of different topics, and I always, whatever, and you wish, well, Ken, all the best in the future. So that's my formula. Anything you have observed about Ken is what you can write about. And obviously you can endorse skills. And then as a result of this most recent experience of being asked to do something for free, and I'm doing this one for free, but Ken and I go way back, so I'm happy to do this one. But if you don't have a budget, and you want to ask somebody to do something, there's actually a lot of different things you can still give that person. So what I've done is I've brainstormed a little list, and I've written this LinkedIn article, and sorry, we don't have a budget for that, but here's what we can offer you instead. So I really encourage you to check that out and think in the future, if you don't have a budget for something, or you need some help and you can't pay someone, there's many other things you can do for that person. You can cook them a meal, you can give them a free ticket to something that you've got. I mean, there's any number of different things that you can actually exchange, and I'd really like to encourage people to think about that rather than just having some sort of expectation. So that's my slides. Now I'm more than willing to demonstrate anything on LinkedIn that you would like me to show you. I'll stop sharing my screen. I'm so sorry the camera's not working. We've got a big red line through it. I can assure you I've got my camera on. So there's obviously some technical issue in there. Now, I would like you to say, if you've got any questions, that as I said at the beginning, what has been most helpful to you from this presentation? If you can pop that in the chat or unmute yourself and share that, that gives me feedback on what's been helpful. And I love seeing other people who are in the same space, talking about their expertise. Karen says, amazing, Sue, thank you. Great suggestions for paying it forward. Yes, Christine, there's many, many ways that we can support one another. And particularly since the pandemic hit the world, I think we need to be more mindful of how we're operating and saying thank you. And I had an article published in CPA Australia, which is the Certified Practicing Accountants magazine this week. And I shared this story. And this was of a young person I know who was getting very agitated with the whole COVID lockdown, business disruption, et cetera, et cetera. And she felt that her boss should thank her for all of her hard work. And I suggested, well, what about you thank your boss? Because he's kept the business running. He's kept you all getting paid and in jobs. And this is really, really valuable. And this boss even said to them, if they get stuck financially, to ask him for help. He would give them financial help. So I thought he was a pretty good boss. So anyway, I suggested that she get a card and get everybody to write on the card. So it's a particular type of business where she could easily coordinate that. Even if, somebody just hand wrote it and sent a photo and they printed it out and stuck it on the card. I mean, it was still possible to do that. And somebody in the group suggested that, look, the boss really liked this particular football team, so they got him a football Guernsey as well. Well, anyway, this young person gave the boss the card and the football Guernsey, and this boss burst into tears. Bloke, he couldn't believe all those beautiful things everybody had said about him, and all it was a card and the Guernsey. They'd all chipped in for the Guernsey. And later that afternoon, she went back to her desk, and what she actually found on her desk was a card saying thank you. And I'd like you to guess how much cash, Australian dollars cash, was in that card. Put your figure in the chat and see who gets the closest. Was it $10? Wasn't $1 million, I can tell you that much. But how much do you reckon cash was in that card from her boss? Nobody's going to guess? 500, pretty close. Anyone else want to guess? Well, I'm here to tell you it was $1,000 Australian, which is, a substantial amount. So don't underestimate the power of thanking your boss or thanking someone that, just a card. It's pretty impressive. So yeah, thank you. Informative, and appreciate your time. Thank you, Helene. So does anybody have any other questions they'd like to ask on LinkedIn, job search, networking, social media, the internet? I don't know.
I'd be curious to know if people put in the chat where they're from.
Yeah.
As a kind of an icebreaker. I know you're in Australia, I'm in New Jersey, and I'd be curious to see. So you put it in the chat. I mean, New York, okay, Melbourne, Passaic, New Jersey.
Hi, Sue. I've got a question.
Yes, Karen.
Love your work.
Thank you.
Great admirer. I love your methodical approach. I love so much about what you do. I identify as an ambivert, so I love hearing introverts. Go introverts. I've got a question around, I've got some serious concerns about the LinkedIn newsletter from the perspective of owned assets versus putting all your eggs in the LinkedIn basket.
Yeah.
So from a strategy point of view, so my question is really, do you share my concerns and how are you advising people? Because if, let's just say you haven't developed an email marketing strategy yet, and you kind of go, okay, I'm going to do a LinkedIn newsletter and get subscribers that way, and then it becomes a pay to play, which it may eventually do. I'm sort of advising people, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. You need to build your website. And you've touched on this a lot and said, you know, things can change. Make sure everything that you do is on your owned assets. I feel like it's really dangerous territory what LinkedIn newsletters. It's great, it's exciting, and people can get subscribers. And I've got more subscribers on my LinkedIn newsletter now than I do on my email list, which also concerns me. Do you share this concern, or should we all just go for it and not worry about it?
Okay, well, it's a bit like going to where the people are. And a little while ago, I unsubscribed for an unbelievable number of email newsletters. And it's not to say they weren't great, they were great. But I just couldn't cope with that number of emails in my inbox. So I unsubscribed. So I think you have to follow the trends to a certain extent. But I have long since forgotten or stopped worrying about my content being reused. And the reason I don't worry about it is because I'm always producing new content. So there's always something new for me to share. But as you can see, I'm making sure that the digital asset value is increasing by making sure I don't just send it out on a newsletter program. I actually have it published on my website, and then I send it out through the newsletter program, which I use as MailChimp, and I also share it on LinkedIn. So I don't worry. Now, if I was looking to convert those subscribers to email, technically I can reach all of those subscribers and I can connect with them and then get their email address and add them on. But who the heck has time for all of that? You know, definitely not me. So as I say, whenever I do my presentations, I invite people to subscribe to whichever format works for them. So for some people, they like LinkedIn because their entire conversation with the person is in the one spot. But what happens if LinkedIn goes down and there was a legal document and somebody deleted it from the LinkedIn message? You've lost it, you know. So anything that's important, I definitely recommend that you have some form of backup of it, and so that you have some way of making sure it gets identified with you. Yeah. Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Nice to see you, Lynn. How's your studies going? Or you might not be able to speak since you're in the car, I think you said.
No, there she goes.
Yep, I'm unmuted. I'm sitting in my car. I just pulled up and just finishing this out. Studies are going. There's always lots and lots to do, and I wish I could engage more on LinkedIn and Clubhouse and whatnot, but I just can't. You know,
No.
there's a point where you got to say no because you just don't have bandwidth.
No, that's right. And obviously, if you're that so busily preoccupied, you can't get the deeper work done. And so I've actually found that when I was writing my 3 books, which is something I'll discuss in this next webinar, is that it took me 3 days to detox from the online world before I could actually focus well enough to write. And now I'm at the point where if I get an idea, if I don't write it down, I kind of lose it. So I'm writing a lot of content really fast now because I'm too scared to lose it if I don't have a chance to write it immediately. So yeah.
So I'd like to just say hello.
Yes.
And from Melbourne, I'm in your area, but I just wanted to say thank you to you and Ken. I was referred to you by Angela Martin. I'm one of her clients, and just in the process of about to launch a new online business for myself and absolutely hate social media. So this has been informative. I tend to glaze over when it comes to the technical details, but I also just wanted to comment on the gratitude aspect of what you talked about before, because I think I'm a wellbeing practitioner. I think it is just so important to practice different forms of gratitude every day. And I liked what you had to say about that, because we seem to have lost a lot of that amongst COVID, and I understand why. Everyone's been aggravated and agitated for different reasons, but I think it really is a very important aspect of anyone's business. So I'll probably reach out to you on a one-on-one basis like Angela. I find a lot of some of the detail, I just tend to lose it, but I really enjoyed the creator aspect of today. Thank you. That was very informative for me. So yeah, and it's nice to be in the one place with people from all over the world. It's amazing that we can do that. So thank you to both of you for your work for today.
Thank you, Alyssa. I really appreciate that detailed feedback. And I think one of the things that's really interesting is we can make a lot of assumptions about people. And I have a friend who was born in Shanghai, China. And apparently it's much more polite if you just cut to the chase and you don't do all that, introductions and warming up and thank you very much. Like if you do that in Chinese culture, you look a bit weird. But, in my culture, it's so important. And I know, a lot of Americans, they're very good at saying thank you and being polite and yes, sir, no, sir, and this kind of thing. So it's also different culturally. And I think finding ways to acknowledge that is important. So for this friend, I knew it was Lunar New Year. So I said, Happy Lunar New Year to her, because that's important in her culture. And I think the more that we understand about some of those things, the better we can all support one another as well. But yeah, thank you for joining us. I mean, you're obviously a woman of action, because Angela only mentioned you to me yesterday, and now you're here today. So that's terrific.
I think.
Alan, go on.
Sorry, no, go on. You go. Fine.
No, I was going to go to Alan, but yeah, go on.
Look, I was just going to say it's also really important what you said about the different ways of paying each other. Particularly if people don't necessarily have that dollar to pay, there are so many different ways that can happen. And I think that needs to happen more in society. I think it's a really good thing, actually. I like the way you spoke about that.
Yeah,
Sue, Crystal has a question first. She had her hand up.
Yeah, absolutely. Crystal, fire away.
This is my first time coming to one of your events. I'm sure I got an invitation, so thank you for that. And
you're welcome.
It's great, the information that I've been receiving. I'm curious about, and you have a lot of followers, clearly knowledgeable. I love the tips and also the methodical approach. I'm very linear and I like to know what are the steps in order to do things. What would you say as far as growing the followers, recognizing, it's not the end all be all, but what would the top maybe 2 to 3 things you would say to focus on or to prioritize when trying to grow the following on LinkedIn? It's where most of my coaching clients find me. I'm working on the consistency. I do weekly live LinkedIn Live via StreamYard.
Yes. Okay.
And so that's been going well. But I'm just curious in terms of moving, kind of growing it a bit more expeditiously, I guess.
Yes, great. Okay. Well, I would definitely recommend that you use LinkedIn events, because if I register to attend your LinkedIn Live as a LinkedIn event, it will actually say Sue is going to Crystal's event on my LinkedIn profile. So I have 1,500 people visiting my profile per 90 days. So as you can imagine, if those 1,500 people see that I'm going to Crystal's event and that event looks appealing to them, then they may too go to that event. And if you look at my LinkedIn events, so if you go to my Sue Ellson company page, you will see my previous events, because they're all in the events tab. And you'll see I've got a particular formula for writing up those events. So I'll share my screen and show this to you. And I invite people to register even if they cannot attend, because that way I get access to them. And then I go through all those people and then I invite them to actually follow me or connect with me, because, you know, if they came to my event, they must be interested. So I'll just go to my Sue Ellson page and I'll show it to you as you would see it. So view as a member. Sorry, you've got all sorts of messages here because all this is live, obviously. And there. So here's all my events. And let's look at this one, because this was a recent one that I did, okay? So you can see in my title, I've put what it is, but I've also put the day and time. So when it appears on the person's profile, because they've accepted the registration, people can see just by looking at the words on the screen when it is and whether that would suit them or not, okay? Now, if you look at the details for this event, obviously I've got it really clear in that picture. I've sometimes also put the date and time in the picture, but you know, that could be a bit of overkill. But here is my blurb, right? So it's lengthy, like really lengthy. Please register. Here's the details, online at that. Here's the reasons why you might want to come, some fast facts, some learning outcomes, who this event is for, my bio, my knowledge level, the prerequisites, ask people to follow me on social media. And don't think I forgot to put a space there. The LinkedIn platform takes out the spaces. I put 2 spaces in, I edited it, changed it, you know, didn't work. So it's not Sue's faulty typing there, it's faulty formatting. And I've told people to share the love, share the recording. The special gift is the free books. Please note they're designed to be informative. Previous Insight events, I'm using little emojis to give a bit of colour. And if somebody is not on LinkedIn, I still have the event on Eventbrite, so that people can register via Eventbrite, because they might not have a LinkedIn account to be able to register. And the good thing about Eventbrite is it gives you that calendar link as well. Mind you, if you add it on LinkedIn, you should be able to add it to your calendar as well if you register. But, you know, there's quite a procedure that I go through. And of course, every time I run one, I get another idea and I edit the description, you know, of the next event. I don't go back and edit the old events. But if we look at the attendees who came to this event, you'll find that most of them are first level connections. But if you choose you can sort them by second and third connections, so that I don't have to keep scrolling. And you can see there's only 32 people out of that 200 and something that are not connected to me, right? But if you look at their profile, if I look at it, you'll see it says pending. Oh, no, it hasn't. I've missed him. Okay, well, I'll have to invite Peter. But let me see one. Oh, I know I've invited this guy. And you'll see it's pending. So I've actually invited him to connect with me, and I think he may have followed me, but, you know, he hasn't connected. Okay, no big deal. I'm not worried. I'm not losing sleep because Will Willits didn't follow me. No problem at all. But what you can also do is if you click on your network, you can see your connections, right? But if you go to linkedin.com/feed/followers, what you will see here is everybody who's following you. I don't know whether you've ever looked at your followers, but you can look at these. Now, you can then decide if this person is your ideal client who would be perfect for you to coach. You can scroll through your followers. So see how it says add follow? This person I'm not connected to at the moment, but this one I probably am. So I could say, well, David could be just the right person to get me to help him with LinkedIn. So I'd look at his profile and say, thanks for following me online. Is there anything I can help you with? Here's a resource that you might find useful, you know, here's something free, you know, to have a look or whatever. Yeah. Now I'm getting some messages here. If you're recording a session, how to write a book, can I have the link? Okay, yes, I'll save this chat and I'll make sure that comes through as well. I hope that answers the question, Crystal, but I think you'll definitely get more followers. Now, the other thing is, yesterday I wrote an article on how to get more leads. Now, it's here, views of my posts. So if you go to my profile and look at all of my activity, it's called Show Me the Money. You might have remembered that expression from a well-known American movie. Are you responsible for making sales from LinkedIn? We would like to find warm leads. So rather than just getting more and more followers, I'd suggest these are the sorts of places where you would find people who already know you and have engaged with you and might be already interested in what you have to offer. So these are places that you might want to start looking for people rather than just more followers, because that's a bit of a random thing. I'd rather people self-select, find me, and then book me. So feel free to do this Google search and tell me what you get. But if you Google LinkedIn specialist, pretty much anywhere in Australia, these are all ads, but there's my LinkedIn profile, number 1, page 1 of Google search results. So, and there's my website, it's number 3. So I think Karen's in here too. There's Karen, she's Think Bespoke. So because we're producing content regularly about this topic, the clearer you are about who you coach, the better that is. And I'll end with a final comment. When I was Sue Everything, Sue can do this, Sue can do that, Sue can do something else, I didn't get any work because nobody could remember what it is I did. But now I do LinkedIn, right? Now, Angela knows me and recommended me to Alyssa for setting up her business website. It's not LinkedIn, but I do that. So that's the benefit of being identified with something. So you might say, do you have a particular type of person you like coaching? What's that? Just unmute. Sorry?
I'm a career coach. I work with prominent professional women navigating career transitions or job searches.
Right. So professional women transition coach. So yeah. And what's unique about your approach?
I would say the combination of consultation and coaching. And so I found that a lot of my clients didn't want just the coaching, just the questions, right? They wanted the how-to also. So that's been kind of really working well and getting some good feedback in that way.
Yeah. So if you said you were a consultative coach for professional women in career transition, right? I know it's a mouthful, but you know, that's what you do, right? That's not to say you won't get a man come to you.
Correct.
But
I do have them, a few male clients as well.
Correct. But if you draw that line in the sand, everybody will remember that you're the one for the transition, not the one necessarily for the promotion or the the retirement or any other thing. You're the one for the transition. Well, you could say retirement is a transition, but it just helps people understand that. So if every event you have is about collaboration or questions or transition, that word is in everything you do, then people are going to associate that with you and it just makes you more memorable. So when the time comes, they might be completely overwhelmed, their boss is a bitch and, everything's disastrous. They can't cope with any form of transition. They're in crisis mode. But, they go on holidays and they have 2 weeks off. And at the end of the 2 weeks, they say, now's the time to call Crystal. But they're not going to call you if they don't know, like, and trust you first. So, just go for the long game. I've definitely been here for the long game.
Okay. I just had one really quick question to follow up on that. As far as LinkedIn events go, and thank you for pointing me in that direction. I would have been considering it. Am I able to turn the LinkedIn lives? I can make those LinkedIn events? And
good question. I don't know. Kenneth, can you answer that one? Yes.
Well, for example, if you use StreamYard as your tool.
I do.
And you create the event on StreamYard, it'll automatically create the event on LinkedIn for you as part of that.
Wow.
That's been it's rolled out about 3-4 months ago. So you don't have to do it twice. You don't have to create the LinkedIn event per se.
Exactly.
And then you can decide from there on StreamYard, is it going to go to your page? Is it going to go to your company page? Depending on your plan, is it going to go to a Facebook page?
I do
all
both
different
LinkedIn
options.
and Facebook. Yeah, I do. I do 3 destinations.
Yeah, but then create the event there and it automatically gets populated. You don't do double work.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful, both of you.
Sure. Anyone else?
Alan he's unmuted. Did you have a question, Alan?
No, not really. I just wanted to say thank you both for your
Okay.
expertise. It's always a pleasure, and I always learn something. And I know it's late at night over there, Ken, in New Jersey. So
Well,
particular
it's
thanks to
it's
you.
8 o'clock at night. It's not sleep time yet.
It's not too bad. Haven't got the teddy bear ready yet.
No, not yet.
Anyway, thank you both, and
All right.
thanks for all the input. Good.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Sue. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Kenneth. Great pleasure. Any final questions?